Hey, what's going on, friends? It is Bad Guy Cam here with a YouTube video for you all. Yes, it's been a little while since I've been in the YouTube scene. I used to make, YouTube videos for a little bit. It was super fun, and we took some time off, and now we're back doing some Draft League Pokemon stuff. So I am super excited about that. As I have already said, I was very much inspired by the people in the NPBA. As you can see, this is for the NPBA Season 3. I was very inspired by the group. A lot of people were making YouTube videos, putting up their draft analysis, putting up their battles, and I was like, you know what? I can do that. We're gonna do that. It sounds like a lot of fun. So here we are. So today we are going to be doing a draft analysis for the Salt Lake Seadra, which is the team that is coached by yours truly. A little bit of context to what's been going on. Our draft ended about a week or so ago. We're currently in week 1. I haven't done my battle yet. Hopefully I'll be doing that sometime today. But I will be trying to get those battles done live as well. So like I said, we're doing a draft analysis with this video. Hopefully a little bit later I'll be doing another video with my first battle. I have all the intentions in the world to do those battles live, record them, put them up on the YouTubes for everyone to watch. I'm not going to guarantee I get every single battle, what with work and life and stuff like that going on. So no guarantees, but I'm going to do my best this season with the NPBA to upload the videos. If things do go well, I'll maybe upload for some of the other leagues I'm in. But right now, I'm super hyped on the NPBA. Love this group, super great people. And I want to share with everyone as well. So, drafting, kind of your standard draft. You do your snake style, 1 down to 16, 16 back to 1. With my luck, I am always in the second half of the draft. I have never been in the higher, above half in any, draft league I've ever done. So, I've kind of found my place here. I had 13th pick, so 12 people went before I did, and I had kind of that ending time where I was able to get a couple mons together, with a little bit of space. Hopefully trying to get some synergies, but you'll see it worked out kind of, but we'll talk about that a little bit more here. So 13th pick comes around, and my first pick is Zera Aura. So a little bit of context to what all these picks. I've actually drafted a lot of these mons before, but if we had to pick a theme for this season, it's going to be redemption, because on two fronts. One, because a lot of the mons I chose this time around were Pokemon that I have used in the past, but it wasn't a great season for me, or the season was cut short for some reason, and I never really got to fully use them. So that's the first thing, and I'll kind of talk about that as I go through it. And the second is, I lost in the finals last season, so we got to redeem ourselves as Season 1 champions. We're coming back Season 3. We're going to use this team to redeem ourselves and take back that championship. So, anyway, first pick, Zera Aura. Look at that speed. That thing is freaking fast. So the last time I used Zera Aura, it was in a Wi-Fi league, and it was one of those leagues that got cut short, and I felt like I really didn't get the chance to use it as frequently as I would have liked to. Cool things about Zera Aura, it's a great pivot mon. It's got Volt Switch, it can zip around, it's super fast, it can be run physically, it can be run specially, it's mediocre on the bulk, enough for it to lift some hits, surprisingly. I always find that when I'm prepping against a Zera Aura, I'm always like, wow, that thing can take a couple hits. But I'm really excited to use Zera Aura again. It's a very fast mon. It's pretty much the third fastest Pokemon in the draft, because you have Deoxys Speed and Regieleki, I think, are the two that are faster. Could be wrong though. There could be more there. But it's 1 point faster than Dragapult, which is definitely one of the biggest threats. And I think it's super fun. I love the design. It's a great looking Pokemon. And I'm excited to use Zera Aura. Like I was talking about earlier, I was trying to get some synergies, and my first thought was I am going to snag Rillaboom, because Zera Aura only has one weakness, which is ground, and the grassy terrain nullifies the earthquake, so it makes things a little bit easier to plan for. Or if a mon doesn't run like a high horsepower or something like that, makes it a little bit easier to or avoid getting hit super effectively. But unfortunately, even though I was only a couple picks from the bottom, Rillaboom was picked up a couple picks before I was able to grab it. So that being said, this is about the time where I decided, like, you know what, we're going to grab some mons that I have used before that I feel like didn't get their time to shine. And so I ended up grabbing Mega Venusaur. And I love Mega Venusaur. I love a good bulky mon that can dish out hits. If you look at the stats, like on defense and special defense, super high up there. And the special attack is right there with it. Venusaur is a very surprising mon. It can do a lot of different things. It can be run offensively, it can be run defensively, it can do, you know, the thing where it sits there and leech seeds and protects. It can set up with on the physical side, it can attack specially, it takes hits for days with its thick fat, giving it only 2 weaknesses, right? Psychic and flying, could be wrong. The one thing I was a little disappointed with grabbing Mega Venusaur is it doesn't give me that full ground resistance because it is poison type, but it does give me a really, really great wall that I can use to kind of absorb those hits that might be coming for Zera Aura. So I am very excited about using Mega Venusaur, and the last time I used it, it was in the only, or I guess we'll see, but it was one of the only times I haven't made playoffs, and it did well. It was just the rest of the team wasn't quite exactly what it needed to be, and it was one of my first leagues I was in. So I want to bring back Mega Venusaur, give it another shot, have it be the thick boy that I know it can be. So that being said, we have our Venusaur, and now we've got to wait, 24 turns for it to come back around to us. And so it gave me plenty of time to think about what I wanted to use next, and a lot of things went off the board, and I saw Salamance sitting there and was like, Salamance is a pretty cool dragon, and it can hit pretty hard, so I'm going to grab Salamance. I love mons that can attack physically and specially. Like, being in Draft League, being able to attack on either the physical side or the special side, so your opponent has to guess which one it's going to hit on, is awesome, because it could put in their defensive wall thinking that, oh man, I'm going to absorb this, Dragon Claw or whatever it is coming from Salamance, but then you're actually specs with Hydro Pump and you just freaking obliterate it, because that's not what that mon was built for. So I love doing that sort of stuff. Salamance is really cool because it can do that, but it can also be very bulky. It's got things like Defog and Roost, so it can be run more like utility supportive as well, which I think is really neat. And Salamance itself, has really great stats. Like, it's got good bulk, great attack, a good speed tier at base 100. There's really so much that I could say about Salamance. I used Salamance in a tournament once and got knocked out in the first round, so I can't say too much about it. It did really well in that tournament. I think I lost. It was like a 2-0 to my opponent, and I think out of those 4 kills, 3 of them were from my Salamance setting up, and then couldn't quite finish the job. But that's okay, because Salamance is back to redeem itself. So at this point, I'm looking at my team and kind of looking at the mons I have. I have my Zera Aura, so I grabbed the Salamance, which gives me the ground immunity. Venusaur, it has the thick fat, but it doesn't really take the ice type moves that Salamance is avoiding at all costs. But it does take the fairy moves, and Zera Aura can take some of the moves, or the flying type moves from Venusaur, but nothing's really taking those psychic type moves super well if we're something's coming from like a Mega Gallade or Alakazam or something like that. And so I decided to go with my next pick and grab Metagross, because Metagross is extremely versatile. First off, it's got a stupid high attack, like 135 base attack is crazy good. You're throwing off bullet punches, you're hitting meteor mashes, Zen headbutts, whatever it is, that's going to hurt with that stab. It can, I like running Metagrosses all sorts of ways. It can be run offensively, it can be run defensively, it can be run supportive with Stealth Rocks. It's got a whole bunch of tricks that you can run. At base 95 special attack, that's not awful either. It's got a lot of potential to do different things. However, one of the biggest things that I love that Metagross does for my team so far, so we look at Zera Aura, Venusaur, Salamance, and Metagross really shuts down a lot of the things that are going to hit Venusaur and Salamance. So we have our ice types shut down. We have our psychic types shut down. Flying types shut down. Rock types shut down. Fairy types shut down. So between Venusaur, Salamance, Metagross, we have like a really good weakness coverage there. Yes, it does share the weakness with Zera Aura, but that is something that you can work around, right? Because we have our Venusaur, we have our Salamence, we've got a couple mons later on that can help with this as well, that have a little bit more of that natural bulk. Plus, Metagross is also a super fun one to run, you know, with like weakness policy, kind of baiting in some of those super effective moves, like the Earthquakes or the Earth Powers. And with the correct DVs, you can live it, you get that +2 boost, and then you can fire off bullet punches, meteor mashes, whatever it is you want. Metagross, super cool mon. I used Metagross in a couple times actually, and it's always performed decently well on my team. The only problem is I have a hard time keeping alive. It's one of those mons where it usually gets a kill but then dies, or it gets 2 kills and then it dies. So I'm going to do a little bit better this time. I think Metagross has a lot of potential on this team to do extremely well, and I'm excited to see what Metagross does. So then I was looking at Metagross and saying like, okay, what are we weak to? We're weak to Dark and Ghost, we're weak to Fire and Ground, and I think that's it, right? Could be it. But to cover some of those weaknesses and to just get a little bit more bulk on the team, I grabbed Umbreon with my next pick. And I love Umbreon. Umbreon doesn't need any redemption. Umbreon's here just because I like Umbreon and is a great wall. Like I said, it shuts down the psychic types. It shuts down the psychic types for Venusaur. It shuts down the ghost types and the dark types that are going to be going for Metagross. Really great synergy between Umbreon and Venusaur actually, because Venusaur can take those fairy type hits, those fighting type hits, while Umbreon and those fairy type hits, while Umbreon can take those psychic type hits as well. So really great synergy defensively there. I love Umbreon. I love a good Wish Passer. I love a good Bulkymon. You can do all sorts of things as a cleric. You're not really going to run it very offensively. Unfortunately, that is one thing about Umbreon, is you're really limited to whether you're running physically defensive or specially defensive. But it does those things so well, it kind of doesn't even really matter. So for me, I love a Wish Passer. I love a Heal Belter, status remover. It does get Foul Play, which can help against some of those mons that might want to set up on the physical side, something like a Dragon Dancer or a Swords Dancer, because Umbreon's usually going to be able to live those hits unless it's something that hits it super effectively. That being said, I do love Umbreon. Like I talked about already, I feel like right now we have such a great defensive core. But the one thing that I feel like I'm kind of lacking at this point is a little bit more speed. We have kind of a big gap between Zera Aura and Salamance. Metagross, Venusaur, and Umbreon aren't the fastest with their base speeds. And I feel like at this point we really do need a second either ground resistance or ground immunity. And so I end up grabbing Talonflame with my 6th pick. And Talonflame is actually one I've never drafted before. So we're a little off script here, but Talonflame is a mon I find very interesting with Gale Wings because it gives us that priority. And with the introduction of heavy duty boots in the most recent generation, that helps it stealth rocks. So with the stealth, what am I even saying? That helps it against stealth rocks so much, and that lets us keep our health at full so we can fire off priority defogs, brave birds. It gets dual wing beat in this generation, so you're able to continue hitting, whereas like a brave bird, you get 1 brave bird off if you're at max health with that priority. So you're able to, or you can run some acrobatics, you could run you get all your fire type moves. It doesn't have the strongest attack and defense. It does have the potential to set up, so if that is the way you're going, that is something you can do, which I find is awesome, being able to do those types of things with a Talonflame that doesn't normally have that attack power that you might be able to break through with some things if you're able to get set up at the right time. It gets things like defog. It's our second defogger. So at this point we have Salamance and Talonflame that can defog. and I feel like that's probably, it runs a pretty good bulky set. You're able to roost. You can, the stats aren't like the best. It's very mediocre that in that regard. But whenever you get roost, that does help quite a bit with that longevity on Talonflame. But I'm really excited to use Talonflame. I thought at the speed tier, it kind of went that middle between Zera Aura and Salamance. You're not really going to get much faster than that, so being able to grab a couple really fast Mons, I felt was a good thing to bring along. At this time, I'm kind of noticing, and this is something with my team that I do feel like I may need to address at some point with some free agent trades, but I don't have a lot of special attackers at this point. Venusaur is kind of my biggest special attacker. Salamance and Zera Aura can both be run specially, of course. And I just kind of felt like I needed something a little bit more dedicated, but also a little bit more utility as well. Looking at some of the mons I have with the setup potential that I have, I decided to go with Alolan at Ninetales. And I love Alolan Ninetales. I think getting that Aurora Veil up is huge. Getting one turn with an instant setup for Reflect and Light Screen to allow some of these mons to set up is absolutely fantastic. Within the Ninetales stats, again, we have that speed that's kind of going to give us that next level of speed, which is fantastic. So now we have the 100, the 109, and then on and on to the Talonflame and the Zera Aura, which are much faster. But Ninetales gets some really cool moves. Obviously, it's got your attacking moves like Blizzard, which is 100% in the Hail. You got your Moonblast. You can run a different, Toxic and Hex sets. You can run Nasty Plot sets if you're going more offensive. You can run it a little bit more defensive with the Aurora Veil, and it's again one of those very versatile mons that I've used before, and I feel like actually I used pretty well. But it was one of those times where I just felt like as a team it didn't do exactly what it was supposed to do, and I want to give it another try. I do love what it can do. I love the speed tier, the ability to hit some of those things super effectively. It gives us our fairy type, so it rounds out our Dragon Fairy Steel core with Salamance, Metagross, and Alolan Ninetales, which I feel is extremely solid. It's your dragon killer essentially, right? So it gets your freeze dries, so you can hit things like a Dracovish super effectively. It gets on top of that, you can kind of you know what I'm trying to say. I'm losing my words here. But it's it's a great Fairymon. It's a great ice type. It's always fun having ice types on the team. Fairy stops it from having the fighting weakness. It does give us a 3x steel weakness, but we do have some good steel resistances already with the Zera Aura and the Talonflame. So overall, we're looking pretty good. With that, let's see, that was our 7th pick, right? So yep, so we're coming back around, and this time I was thinking we needed another Stealth Rocker, because at this point we have Metagross, and that's it. And I don't want to rely on Metagross every single week for Stealth Rocks. And if I could grab another way to remove hazards, that'd be pretty great as well. And so I was sitting there going back and forth between two mons. I needed a ground type as well. I do have Zera Aura, which gives me the electric immunity, but because I had picked up Talonflame, I was like, I kind of want another one. And I ended up going with Donfan with my next pick. And I love Donfan. I'm going to be honest, again, this is one I haven't drafted before. I love the potential here. It's got some really great defensive stats. It's got some really pretty decent offensive output as well. It's got sturdy as its main ability, so you're kind of guaranteed to get off like your stealth rocks. If you're leading with it, you're guaranteed to get off a rapid spin if you're running heavy duty boots. Cool stuff like that. Donfan, it gets some good, I don't have it pulled up in front of me, but it gets some good coverage. Like I'm pretty sure it gets like play rough and some of the Fang moves. Like I said, I'm not too familiar with Donphan. I know what it does best, and that's kind of like a hazards remover, a hazard setter, and I'm very interested to see what Donphan can do. There's a lot of different. I've played against a couple Donphans, and I've seen like a Donphan be banded before. Who knows what, you know? That's the thing that we love about Draft League, right? Is we can run all these crazy sets. But Donphan, it's got some really great stats. I was going back and forth between Donphan and Mudsdale, but ultimately the idea that I could use it as a rabbit spinner as well pushed me into the Donphan zone. I've used Mudsdale lots of times before. I love me a Mudsdale, so I decided to mix it up a little bit, and we went with Donphan as our ground type. We also, and kind of looking at the ground types as well, if we look at the ground type weaknesses of water, grass, and ice, we actually have those covered pretty well with our Mega Venusaur, our Salamance, our Metagross. And so overall, I felt like it was a really great pickup. A pure ground type also fit my team really well with getting rid of rocks and things like that too. So very happy with the Donphan pick. At this point, that was my 8th pick, so I had to wait again till it came all the way back around, and I'm down to kind of the bottom of the barrel with my points. I wasn't exactly sure what to do next. I knew I needed a water type, but there wasn't really a lot that I was looking at that I was like, yeah, this is going to be a great water type. So I ended up going for the monstrosity that it is of Arctovish. And this thing is wild. Like, I was looking for a water type. I found Arctovish. It's got the Slush Rush that matches up with Alolan Ninetales, because I was thinking about maybe like, oh, maybe I'll grab Alolan Sandslash, because that's a pretty great synergy with the Alolan Ninetales, but with adding another Steel type, or the Ice Steel type nonetheless, that kind of made some of my weaknesses unideal. And Arctovish does still have some of those weaknesses, but not as crazy. Like the fighting weakness, which we actually have covered pretty well with our fighting weaknesses. But then we also get some of these other, bulky aspects of Arctovish that you don't get with Alolan Sandslash. So we have our defense is great, our special defense is great, our attack is good. It's just these stats are so interesting. The only thing that doesn't really look great is that speed stat, which is pretty low at 55. But if you can get that under the hail and you give this thing a band, it gets Vicious Rend just like the other thing, Dracovish. Yeah, I talked about that already once. But yeah, it gets Vicious Rend. It can hit things super hard. It's got some pretty good coverage. It gets water type moves, rock type moves, steel type moves. And with that, you can hit quite a bit of stuff. Not a lot is wanting to take a hit from an Arctovish. It's also got that really good bulk like I was talking about as well. So that allows it to take a few hits while being able to dish some back. The speed, like I said, can be a problem, but there are ways to work around it. We could even scarf it, but if we can get it going in the hail as well, I feel like Arctovish could be a threat that people are going to need to watch out for. Like I said as well, it can take some really good hits. Doesn't really have much setup potential, and outside of just kind of attacking and absorbing hits, it doesn't do much more than that, which is why it's a little bit lower. But I do think it'll be a very interesting mon to use, and hopefully it gets some good screen time. Next up, I was kind of running out of picks at this point, and there wasn't a whole lot left on the board that I was super excited about. And I decided to go for a mon that I've used once before when it first came out, and it went okay. I used it in a tournament. I did a little bit better in this tournament, and it did some really good things, but more bulk is never bad. So that's why I went for Galarian Corsola, because I feel that it matches up so well with my other walls. If you look at Mega Venusaur and Umbreon, it really shuts down a lot of the things that are going to affect those two mons. And it does what it does best, right? So it gives me another Stealth Rocker, which I think is great. Having multiple Stealth Rockers on a team is super beneficial because you can kind of move that responsibility around. It gets different things like Will-O-Wisp. Strength Sap is an extremely underrated move that I love using on my Galarian Corsolas. It's meant to just sit there and be bulky, right? It's gonna It's going to Toxic you, or I don't think it gets Toxic because it's Galarian, but it's going to Will-O-Wisp you, it's going to Strength Zap you, it's just going to continue getting this health back. It's going to just be so annoying. And when you slap the Eviolite on it, it becomes so bulky. Like, you look at those defense stats, it's already bulky as is. Eviolite boosts those by 50%. So it's super hard to take down, and I, for one, have been put up between a rock and a hard place with a Galarian Corsola, where I was just not able to break through it, and it cost me a game. So I'm excited to give it another try in an actual draft league. Like I said, it's got some really great potential as a wall and as a utility mon. So that being said, I'm down to my last couple points. We're wrapping up the draft. With this draft, we could draft between 10 and 12. Corsola, Galarian Corsola is my 10th mon. I had a couple points left. Wasn't exactly sure how I wanted to use it. At this point, the draft was going kind of slow just because, you know, people were picking their last picks and whatnot. So I had a lot of time to think about it, and I eventually settled on Zangoose. And this is a weird pick. This is another one I've never drafted before, but it's got some really interesting things. First off, like, getting Stab Quick Attack is really cool. If you can get a boost with its Toxic, like, you give it the Toxic Orb, and I can't remember what the ability is called off the top of my head as I'm recording this. I think it is called that, Toxic Boost or something like that. But it gives it an attack boost if it's toxic, poisoned. I don't know why I'm saying this. You probably know that. But if you can get that activated with a quick attack, that's fantastic. It also has a lot of setup potential with like Sword Stance, Belly Drum, stuff like that. So very interesting mon. You can see the defensive side of it is not great, but what I see there, there was another thing that I saw with this too, was it filled a good speed stat as well, because I had that gap from Venusaur in 80 to Salamance in 100, and hitting that 90 speed tier, it was also really helpful, because Zangoose is a mon you don't want to look over, because it can hit you super hard, especially if it gets set up, especially if it's got that Toxic Orb going, and it's going to just wreck you. So it's something that you can't really forget about going through your team builders. It is pretty one-dimensional with what it does. It's definitely an attacker. It's whether, you know, how is it going to attack you. It does get some good coverage. It gets things like knockoff. Obviously, if you're going for that Toxic Orb, going for a Facade, so you got that boosted Facade that's already boosted, like, it hits hard. So that is something that you definitely don't want to forget about during your prep. But that was my last mon. Those are my last 2 points. Went to Zangoose, picking up, giving us a total of 11 mons this season for our NPBA Salt Lake Cedars team. So this is the team. I'm super excited to be using it. There are a lot of I feel like there's a lot of potential here. I feel like the thing I'm the most proud about this team is I feel like the defensive coverage and defensive synergies within the team are fantastic. There's not a lot of things that I can't switch into and then be able to pivot into something else that's going to be able to, you know, hit hard or continue that bulk train, and just kind of whittling those mons down until I have the chance to come in with something that can set up and sweep, something that's got a ban, something that's got some specs on it, whatever it is. So I'm very excited about this team. I'm going to kind of assess it over the first couple weeks. There's a couple things about this team that I'm not super thrilled about. Biggest one is on the special attacking side. I guess I'm just gonna have to break through on the physical side for now, but I am going to definitely kind of assess the team. If I make any free agent trades, I'll make a video and talk about that a little bit. Make those why I talk about why those made talk about why I made those changes and the new mons that we're gonna be having on our team. So thank you so much for watching today. I'm going to reach out to my week 1 battle and see if we can get that scheduled. I think everything ready to go. So I would love to get that uploaded as well. I'm going to go ahead and end this video here. Thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for more NPBA content and maybe even some more content down the road. Go ahead, hit the subscribe button, and we will talk to you next time. See you, everyone.